participate in like 30 of them. And it's okay if you don't complete half of them. It's okay if you lose on 29 of them. If you win in one, that one goes on your CV. Nobody's asking you how many you failed in. It's important to fail faster.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another podcast powered by Growjunction. And I, Shivangi Shaw, will be your host for the day. Today, we have with us Mr. Ayush Kumar, consultant at KPMG. We are honored to have you, Ayush, with us.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, Ayush. So, moving on, it would be great if you could give us a short introduction of yourself.
Okay, sure. So I'm a consultant at KPMG right now, and I did my MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur. Before that, I have 5 years of work experience in health tech and in education. And post XLRI, I joined Schindler India, which is the elevator company. And I was managing all the key accounts in the Eastern UP market. And post that, I have joined KPMG. So yeah,
Right.
that's
So
yeah.
you said you've done your MBA from XLRI. So your PGDM from XLRI, you can just give us your experience regarding your choice of specialization, your placements, basically your overall journey during your whole PGDM program.
Okay. So I was part of, so XLRI Jamshedpur has a 1-year PGDM program in general management. It's basically for people with the work experience. Now, the interesting thing is that I tell people that we are the most unique batch in the last 100 years. Because my MBA started in 2020 when the pandemic hit, and it ended in 2021 during the Delta wave. So through the MBA, I think if we were a batch of 90 odd students, about 50 of us had COVID at some point or the other. And so the program was in general management. And I mean, the thing with the 1-year program is that everything that you're supposed to learn over 2 years, it's condensed in 1 year because they assume that there's some basics because you come with work experience. So that was the program. And placements, again, for a lot of colleges, placements were hit on account of the pandemic. There was a lot of uncertainty. We didn't get hit as much because we had a good cohort and the XLRI name has value. So we didn't get hit as much. It took a lot of effort. It took a lot of effort on the part of the administration. It took a lot of effort on the part of the students because all of a sudden companies were coming in with fewer roles. So if the previous year they would come in for 10 students, now they would come in for 3 students. So if you really wanted to get in, you were competing for those 3 slots as opposed to for 10 slots. So it was an interesting journey. We had a good time. And I mean, yeah, I'm very happy with the decision that I took. And I'm happy that it turned out well.
Great. That's great. So was it always that you wanted to go into consulting? Like, how did you plan your career in this sector?
I didn't plan a career. Anybody who tells you they planned a career is either extremely lucky or lying. I didn't know about what consulting was till a very late stage. When I was getting into XLRI, you talk to the alums and you talk to the other students and you'd hear about consulting and it's made out to be this big thing. Everybody wants to get into consulting. Everybody who doesn't know anything about anything wants to get into consulting. And what happened was I was like, okay, this seems interesting. And so I asked a few people, I was like, what's the route? And they said, get good at case competitions, do lots of case competitions, you'll learn a lot. Get good at practicing business cases that you'll have to do very quickly. And then I did that. I participated in a lot of case competitions. That is one advice that I give to everybody. Participate in like 30 of them. And it's okay if you don't complete half of them. It's okay if you lose on 29 of them. If you win in one, that one goes on your CV. Nobody's asking you how many you failed in. It's important to fail faster. So I did case competitions. I founded the consulting club for our program. I was the founder president. And yeah, so along the way, it wasn't an organic initial love. But as soon as I found out about it and I got more and more into it, I got very involved into it. And I was like, okay, this is sort of what I want to do.
Great, that's great. And right, we should actually participate in a lot of case studies to not just win, but to gain experience too, like how things work. So
I
yeah,
tell everybody that I've learned a lot more in the case competitions than I have in any of the classes.
true. Okay, so moving forward, so how should one prepare for their interviews? Like, does being a fresher or having a work experience have an impact during the interviews?
So the impact is that it's not that as a fresher or as someone with work experience, you are at an advantage or disadvantage. Your interview will just be very different. So if you come in with work experience in an interview, they will expect you to have some insight into the industry that you were in, the sort of profile you were in. You should have an overall industry perspective. If you're a fresher, then they just want to see a trajectory of you being good at everything that you've done. So it's not so much that I have a 99th CAT percentile, I went to IIM Ahmedabad. It's not that. You can be in any school, but whatever B school you were in or whatever undergrad school you were in, were you doing well? Wherever you are, can you do well at it? Do you have a pedigree of excellence? So that is something that they look at. And in an interview, especially for a consulting interview, they want to know how your brain works. It's not in terms of being specialized in any one thing. So for example, when I sat for KPMG, my previous experience was in Schindler. They were not going to ask me how does a lift work. They were going to ask me, okay, what do you think about the industry? Has it been impacted by COVID? What are the coming trends? So the interview prep, there are 2-3 things that I think anybody should do if you have any interview coming up. Look into the company, know everything about the company, know when they were founded, know what country they're from, know their values by heart. If there are 5 values, memorize them. So any company that I go in, I'll create an acronym or something for the values. And I'll say them in order. And if they don't ask me for the values, I will integrate it into the answer.
Okay.
So for example, if they ask me, what is your opinion on safety? And I'll be like, yes, that is one of your values. It's very important to me.
Right.
So know the company well, know your CV really well. So if in your CV, somewhere you've mentioned, and this can be anything. It can be your past work experience. It can be about your college. It can be about any extracurriculars that you've written about. So I remember in some interview, I wrote that I enjoy cricket. And they said, okay, there was a match happening 2 days ago. What was the ground that the match was at? So they'll ask you things like that. Just know every word on your CV. So if you know the company, if you know your CV, then you can you just have to align your CV according to what the company is looking for.
No, right. Great. So, okay, moving forward, what skills, according to you, students must focus on if they want to get into this field? Any courses that you'd suggest, any skills that they should work on from now on?
For one thing, case competitions.
Right.
I tell everybody this. So even at XLRI, when the new batch was coming in, a lot of people asked me, what should we do? And I said, do case competitions. And they said, okay. And 90% of the people won't do it. Because it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, life gets in the way. But I think that case competitions teach you more than anything else, because you are given a problem, you have to solve it, you have to make the PPT, you have to express your thoughts. So that is one. My second thing is read a lot, and read in terms of, so what I used to do is I kept a notebook and I would open any newsletter. So like I would have FinShots, I would have the McKinsey newsletters, and I just note down things. So for example, if there was an article on FinShots on the airline industry, I'd write down 3-4 points. Then if a week later in some other newsletter, there was something else on the airlines industry, I'd note it down. So just having a broad idea about the world around you. That is basically what an MBA is supposed to prepare you for anyway. So if you have an idea around the world around you, if you have a general business sense, and the third advice that, so when we were coming into our MBA, we asked our alums, what book should we reach? What book should we read? And they said, read Case in Point. And we said, okay. And after we're done with Case in Point, what should we read? They said, read Case in Point again. So that is the third thing. I think like that is one book you should just read cover to cover. Read it like a storybook. Spend a week. Don't try to solve the cases because then you won't finish the book. Just read it cover to cover. When you get done, when you get bored, read it again. So I think these are the 2-3 things. I don't necessarily think there is a particular course that will create a straightforward entryway into consulting, but these are the basic skills.
Right. So moving on, a very general question. So it is regarding the specialization. So if there's a person who has always been experienced in, finance, and he wants to change his specialization, maybe into like marketing or any other specialization. For example, me, I have done my bachelor's in finance, and then I wanted to shift in marketing. So look, that was a huge task at that point of time. So how would you suggest of people over here watching to, think about the specialization they want to go to or change?
If you were in finance, go into finance. There's more money in finance.
Right.
On a more serious note, my advice would be, it's like wherever you come from is one thing. You do an MBA for that transformation. That's the whole point of your MBA. If you want to incrementally rise in finance, then you'll keep doing that. You'll keep gaining work experience. You do an MBA specifically for that learning. That, okay, I have only done finance. Now, maybe I want to explore marketing. Maybe I want to explore HR. So where you come from is one thing, but over the course of your 1 year or your 2 years, how you plan out the journey, how you can pivot your resume is what matters. So for example, in your summer internship, if you're in finance and you take a finance summer internship, then it becomes pretty clear that you want to go into finance. If you want to go into marketing, then you'll find something closer to marketing. If you want to, and then you can take live projects. A lot of companies offer live projects because they don't have to pay anything. And it's excellent experience for you. So for example, if you reach out to a company and say, I want to do a live project in marketing, the company will say, okay, we don't have to pay this person. And then over those 1 month or 2 months, you are learning a lot. They are getting you to work without necessarily having to pay you. And you have that on your resume. So if there's a finance person, but on the resume, I see a live project in marketing at a good company, that'll catch my eye as a recruiter. So you do live projects, you do your summer. You just basically have to pivot your resume so that the company knows where you want to go. If the company says, okay, the last 2 years, this person has only done marketing things, then I know that this person wants to go into marketing. Then I won't waste their time interviewing them for something else. So you just have to use those 2 years of it's fine if you did something else before an MBA. 80% of the janta that comes into an MBA is engineers who then go into companies that have nothing to do with engineering. I am an engineer. That is not relevant to what I'm doing right now. That's why you do an MBA, to explore. So you just have to use that 1 year or use those 2 years to pepper your resume with those keywords. So if you want to go into marketing, have marketing terms on your resume. Go on different platforms. Do a marketing analytics course. Have that on your resume.
Great, that's great stuff. So moving forward, so many companies were badly hit due to COVID and are still recovering. So how has COVID affected the consulting sector? If you could throw some light.
So I'm still new into the consulting world, so I can't necessarily speak with that kind of authority. But the way I understand it, the whole point of consulting firms is problem solving. companies come to you with a problem and you sort of facilitate the solving of that problem. What has happened with COVID is that a lot of business models haven't done as well. A lot of companies have suddenly had to pivot. Companies in FMCG that were selling through shops, all of a sudden the shops were closed. Companies that had a digital presence did well. Something like all the fintech platforms, they did well after demonetization, then they stabilized, and then all of a sudden they made a lot of money during COVID because everybody wanted to pay through the app. So the whole point of consulting is to help companies sort of stay ahead of the curve. So consulting that way hasn't suffered as much. Consulting has also pivoted where a lot of it was focused on in-person engagements. Now everybody's sort of gotten used to being online. Everybody's gotten used to interacting this way. This podcast that we are having would have been a bottleneck 3 years ago because we would have had to do it face to face. Now it's very comfortable that, okay, you share a link, okay, the other person will join, everybody's comfortable with that. So in a lot of industries, especially consulting has benefited from that because now you can have a client in country A, you can have consultants in country B in 3 different locations. And now everybody's gotten comfortable with that. So that has been an advantage.
Correct. Okay, so moving on, one last question for you. There must have been many struggles and obstacles you must have faced in your journey till now. And so you could please share some of them, how you overcame them, and what were your learnings from those?
So in terms of obstacles, I think the one obstacle that everybody can identify with has been the pandemic. And so like anybody who started their MBA last year, who's at the end of their first year right now, wouldn't necessarily know what it was like for us because I got my acceptance letter in XLRI in January or February. We were prepared to go on campus. Then the lockdown hit. And then we thought, okay, it'll get delayed by a month, then we'll go to campus. And this happened to everybody. So the challenge that I don't want to talk about an individual challenge, this is a challenge that all of us collectively faced. Because it was like, okay, classes were online. This is the first time we were taking online classes. Classes were online. Placements we weren't sure about because companies were also sort of iffy about hiring. Their bottom lines had gotten hit, so they weren't necessarily keen on expanding their team. There were lots of people who got COVID. There were a lot of people in my batch who lost family. I had last April I had COVID. So, but you have COVID, but classes are going on, assignments are going on, life is going on. The people who have placements still have to worry about placements. So I think beyond any individual challenge, that is an individual challenge that everybody faced at a collective level. So on the one hand, you're like, okay, I have an assignment due. On the other hand, you're checking your oxygen level. On the other hand, you're like, okay, I reached out to this company, they haven't responded yet. Or like you have I sat for this interview, I wonder if they'll respond. So you have all of these things to worry about and you have the pandemic. So I think that is a challenge that everybody faced, but we spoke about it a lot during those 1 or 2 years. Now we're starting to talk about it less because things have normalized, but I think that has been a recent challenge.
Right. That's yeah. So thank you so much for patiently answering all my questions and taking out time for us and for the viewers. So, sir, there are many people watching this podcast, starting from MBA aspirants, students, and people from various backgrounds. It will be great if you could, give few golden words for the viewers and for Growjunction as well.
I think for one thing, Growjunction is doing a very good job in connecting aspirants and people who are looking for opportunities to people who might be able to help. So I think that's a great initiative. As for aspirants, as for anybody looking for jobs, I'd just say keep hustling. If you're in an MBA program, keep hustling. Classes, you'll have classes, you'll have clubs, you'll have everything, but have that one thing that differentiates you from the 50 or 100 or 200 other people. Have that one thing on your resume, have that one thing that you know about more. Keep hustling.
We are again honored to have you with us, Ayush. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.